superhero films are truly, truly something special, and something that has driven many, 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 many people to the box office over the years. And I believe that there is a reason for that. And that is what this review is going to be about. So I don't want to waste any time. Let's jump right in.
You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you. You're a cheap, lousy, dirty, stinking mug, and I'm glad what I've done to you.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try. Is that a challenge?
Temper. I wouldn't dream of challenging you.
Welcome to First Watch, an average Joe sitting here giving you hopefully a little bit more than an average review of movies that I go and see for the first time. That is why it is known as First Watch. These movies are getting a first watch from me. This particular movie I'm going to be talking about today, you all already know what it is. This movie in particular has been enjoying an absolutely stunning box office performance, and something that the box office desperately needed. Before we go much further, as of this moment, as of this recording, this particular movie has pulled in $205 million domestically. It is the number 4 film of the year. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, and here's what I will say. I'm going to put the updated numbers either below or in their own screen, because I do believe this could be on track to be the biggest film of the year. There's no other way I know to say that. I do know in terms of weekend box offices, and let me pull up the actual numbers just so that you know what the record stands at currently. Before this weekend, this past weekend, I guess, I'm recording this during the weekend, but by the time you see it, it is probably the past weekend. But I want to get all my thoughts out. So before this past weekend, the number 1 film in terms of the best opening weekend at the box office was Inside Out 2. And its opening weekend box office number was $154.2 million. It would go on to, as it stands currently, produce $613.4 million at the domestic box office. That's been shuffled a little bit. My last review, I did say that Dune Part 2 was number 2. It is now number 3 for the best domestic box office gross. Now number 2 is Despicable Me 4 at $290.9, really $291 million in gross. And Dune 2 was 282. However, number 1 at the box office, and I can feel comfortable saying this, recording it before I even see what the total is from today, which as I'm recording this, this is Sunday. The number one best opening weekend box office, at least so far this year, is now Deadpool and Wolverine, 1,000%. It is already at 205 million. I think that this film right here, um, it, it 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 could be on track to get into the 300 million range, maybe more. I wouldn't be surprised. And as I'm saying this again, look right in here on the screen, because that's where I'm going to put what that total is. But it would not surprise me in the least. I went and saw this in an absolutely crowded theater, filled with laughter and reactions. It was exactly what movies are meant to be, and honestly, it gave me chills. It was special. It was special. Seeing a film with other people that are so invested in the story and the characters. There's nothing on this planet quite like that, and it is the magic of movies. So hopefully I am getting that across in this review of just how special that really is. So this movie was definitely something special. Definitely something special. But before we dive into it specifically, let's just talk about the fact Marvel. Is Marvel back? I think that's been a question that a lot of Marvel fans have been asking themselves for a while. And in my opinion, rightfully so. It was kind of tried, they tried to explain it away a little bit with basically, and I don't want to really ruin anything if people are still catching up on Marvel. I know it's a lot. It's a ton. My plea with you is to just stick with it, because it's rewarding, I promise. But to not ruin anything, in the newest phase of Marvel, the way they've been kind of dealing with that has really been around basically stating that the heroes as we know them are struggling in dealing with their emotions and their feelings post Endgame, essentially, and what all of that meant. And that works, I think, for a while, but it's been a little long. And I think fans are rightfully getting a little bit concerned about that. This weekend, or last weekend, was San Diego Comic-Con, which is, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I do believe it is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Comic-Con event. I do think that is the case. And there are major announcements usually from Kevin Feige and others within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU as it's known. This past weekend, we kind of had our minds blown, I think. If you have not seen the news, I can't imagine if you are a Marvel fan that you haven't. I imagine it's been everywhere on your social media news feeds, or wherever you get your information. I imagine you've seen it at this point. And this is something that I do want to discuss. If you don't want to know and you want to find out for yourself, then just pause right now and go take a look. But I am going to dive into this, and that is that the new actor who will be playing Victor Von Doom, also known as Doctor Doom, who is pretty much the main villain against the Fantastic Four. That actor was announced, and that actor was none other than Robert Downey Jr. himself, who we know as Iron Man, and kind of the start of everything that we know to be the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, the Godfather. And I think fans, it has definitely sparked some backlash, which it's understandable. Downey is known as Iron Man. He is the penultimate character in a lot of ways to everything that we know the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be. So this is a bold move, I think, by Marvel, and one that is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Now, that something to understand about Doctor Doom. He is one of the most well-known villains, but actually has a persona that is reminiscent of Robert Downey Jr. And I think that if we didn't know Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, well, I'm not even going to speak to how we would react because I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know that Robert Downey Jr. would end up being Doctor Doom if he hadn't been Iron Man. There's just a lot of what ifs in that. And I'm going to save the what ifs for Marvel's show, What If. I don't want to play that game. But I get it. I get it. The backlash is understandable. But here's the deal. I'm just here for the ride. I think that we need to wait, that we need to be patient, that we need to give the creative team time to flesh this out and see what they come out with. Because it could work. It could work, and it could be absolutely spectacular. And I don't have, outside of the most recent phase of the MCU, I don't really have too much of a reason to believe otherwise. So my plea is for Marvel fans to not become just another toxic fan base here. Give the team time and let's see what they come up with. Here's the thing that I know. Here's what I do know. I know that Iron Man and Tony Stark is one of, if not the most beloved character Robert Downey Jr. has ever played. And not just by us, but by him. And that he treats Marvel with the utmost amount of reverence. So I know for a fact, just based on that, and based on who Robert Downey Jr. is as an actor, he would not have lightly accepted the role of Doctor Doom. One way or another, there may have just been no way around it. Like I said, Marvel has been kind of flailing a little bit lately, and if there's anybody that can get them back on track, it is Robert Downey Jr. To be honest, I'm kind of excited. And I can't wait to see what he does with that character. And I can't wait to see the direction that Marvel is heading in. I am definitely curious, to say the least. But with that, let's dive into Deadpool and Wolverine, because I know that is the main reason why you are here. This film was directed by Sean Levy. It is the first time that he has directed a Deadpool film. The other two directors were basically solo films. So Deadpool 1, I think, was Tim Miller. I may be getting that wrong, and I'm blanking on the director of the second film. Both were fantastic, but this one was directed by Sean Levy, who also directed the movie Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, and what I believe my understanding would be is a cult classic in the film Big Fat Liar, which was his first, essentially his directorial debut. The cast is Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Those two are obvious, and that is all you're getting out of me. I do not believe in spoiling movies. I never have. I have run from any information about, you know, key factors of a movie that I'm interested in every single time, and I'm not going to be one of those out there that sits and ruins that for someone else. So that's all I'm going to tell you. You're just going to have to see it to know what happens. I think if you've seen the first two Deadpool films, then you already know that with Ryan Reynolds, especially Ryan Reynolds, but also Hugh Jackman, you're going to be in for an absolute treat. Let's talk about plot. The plot was absolutely believable, as only Marvel knows how to do. They tied everything together perfectly. I wasn't left asking myself, well, wait, how did that happen? What about this? And there have been some Marvel movies that I've done that. I feel like I remember doing that with Ant-Man, Quantumania, and some of the shows that Marvel's put out as well. But that is not the case with this movie. This is Marvel at its finest. It's what we've known Marvel to be in the past. So plot's fantastic. It does, and anything that I talk about, by the way, is going to be something you can see in a trailer. So don't worry. Like I said about spoiling, I'm not going to do that. But this does involve the TVA, and I will say, because he's in the trailer, I believe he pronounces his last name McFadden, but it's Matthew McFadden, who is known for Succession and is just an absolutely, to me, brilliant actor. I love seeing Matthew McFadden in absolutely anything. I feel like he's underrated. He does a tremendous job. He plays as a part of the TVA, which we were shown. I don't know that we were introduced. There might have been some introducing prior to the show Loki, but we really came to know the Time Variance Authority, also known as the TVA, during Loki, the show, which is on Disney Plus. If you haven't caught that, it wouldn't hurt you to watch that prior to this, but you also, I don't know that you're going to need all that info, which is great. Yes, the TVA is absolutely a part of this. We've been dealing with multiverse themes for a while now and storylines, and anytime you're dealing with the multiverse, you're dealing with the TVA, which for anybody watching this that doesn't know the multiverse, basically there are multiple timelines, and the timeline that we knew for Avengers and that whole thread, the entire time it turns out there were alternate timelines where a number of things could happen. Tony Stark could have not become Iron Man, or a number of different things. So it allows a lot of freedom, I think, and it's absolutely brilliant to toss into a storyline, because it gives studios the ability, if something does go awry, to say, all right, well, that was one story, that was one timeline that we introduced you to, but we're going to come back to this timeline, or we're going to shift over to this one. So I think that's masterful. one of the most brilliant moves that I have seen by studios. I do think that it is a fair judgment to say that by doing that, you do make things pretty complicated. And a lot of times, some of the criticism I hear about Marvel and superhero films in general as of late is that they're just impossible. Like the fact that everything is connected to the previous thing makes it nearly impossible to play catch up or follow along. And that is an absolutely valid feeling and statement. You know, but I do feel that you could if you really wanted to look up the main bullet points from everything that came before, and you'd be fine. So that's my statement on that particular feeling. This movie was an extremely entertaining film. Where I mean, after 2 hours, I found myself sitting there going, "Give me more, give me more." I mean, I could have gone 4, maybe 5 hours of this film. It was absolutely spectacular. It covers a lot of different themes, I think. You know, I think maybe potentially the main one being destiny. And, you know, the thing that popped in my head pretty quick is a quote from Thanos from, I believe it's Endgame, where he says, "Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same." Let's go over the definition of destiny, just so we can fully understand this word before we really kind of dive in to the theme. Webster's dictionary defines destiny as something to which a person or thing is destined. It follows that by saying a predetermined course of events, often held to be an irresistible power or agency. Essentially, this film and destiny in general it is about struggling with us fully grasping the fact that we are meant to be who we are. But it comes with a caveat. We can also change the course of that outcome at any moment. So in a way, it speaks to destiny, but maybe not in the same sense as a belief that it's exact, that there is no way of altering events, that there is no way to escape who you ultimately become. It's something a lot of films deal with, but especially superhero films. Destiny seems to always be a pretty big theme. And I think that the multiverse reflects what I just said. You know, in a lot of ways, the storyline behind multiverse is trying to get a point across that Thanos is correct. That destiny will always arrive just the same, with things working out the same way every time, no matter what we do. And I think that the conversation that happens in these movies is very much so a dialogue, maybe even a debate about that. And one that I feel leans into we are not ever destined to be something. That at any point in time, we have the ability to change the events, to change the course of our lives with our decisions. and you know, we're essentially we're not doomed in any way to be who we are forever if we don't like who we are. We have the ability to change our lives. We have that ability, which speaks to just free will and that discussion. So very, 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 very deep theme, and this movie definitely discusses that. And superhero films, especially from Marvel, have been discussing that for a little while, and it's an important theme and a very deep one to have a dialogue around, I think, especially visually. I think this movie also talks about friendship and the power of believing in others that no one else believes in, including that person themselves. You know, the power of encouragement, the power of just being there and being the strength for someone when they're weak. I think that this movie definitely reflects that message in a lot of ways, and that really just the power of sharing others' struggles, so that they're not essentially left in the dark in the rain by themselves. So I think that's a big theme of this. But I also want to talk about superhero movies in general. And I've talked about this before. And I think I bring it up a lot because it does kind of grind my gears a little bit. And that is, the statement from Martin Scorsese that superhero movies are not cinema, they're just amusement parks. And to me, that's one of the most hurtful statements anyone can say about film. Because what you define as cinema and not cinema, someone else will define completely differently. And they have the right to define that themselves because it's art. Art does not have definitive definitions or opinions. It is left to the person that views it to express how it made them feel and if that was special. So the minute that you make a definitive style statement like superhero movies are just amusement parks, and you are a big name in the film industry, that carries power with it, and it's pretty hurtful to an entire group of people that to them cinema is superhero movies. And they have absolutely every right for that to be the case. Just like a huge group of people that to them horror is cinema. So you cannot just toss a genre out of the definition of cinema. So I heavily disagree with that statement, and I want to talk about, to me personally, why superhero movies are cinema, are film, are art, and why we love them as much as we do. And I think in talking about why we love superhero movies as much as we do, I will get to the point of why they are cinema. And that, put simply, in order to understand why we love superhero movies, you need to understand why people love superheroes in general. Why, since the very first superhero was drawn up, people have latched on. Superheroes reflect all that we as humans admire and aspire to be. They fight for justice. They protect the powerless. They have a sense of morality to them. And they project hope and light in the presence of darkness. And the term "not all superheroes wear capes," absolutely true. A Jedi is a hero in many instances. So it doesn't just stop at Marvel. So I think that DC and Marvel have also done a really good job of humanizing the superheroes we've come to know and love. Um, the movie The Batman that came out with Robert Pattinson, I have said over and over that that may be um, one of the best renditions of Batman. I'm not going to say it's the best, um, you know, because that's a really tough decision, and I don't know that I've made a decision on that yet. But I will say it's one of the best that's ever been made. And I think that's in large part for me personally due to the amount of time in that movie spent around Bruce Wayne fighting and struggling with depression and anxiety and this darkness, this dark, dark, dark place that he's found himself in after the death of his parents. And I don't think that we really address that fully in many of the other renditions of Batman. That's powerful. One of the biggest issues of our time, in my opinion, is revolving around mental health. It is people, talk to anybody, me included. We are possibly more than ever, or maybe we've just now learned to put a term to how we feel. I don't know. But it feels like now more than ever, we are struggling with anxiety and depression. So to have a superhero that can go out and protect others and put everyone above himself, or even herself, if we were talking about Wonder Woman, but specifically here, Batman, to have a superhero that goes out and puts everyone above himself to protect them from the darkness that he finds himself in, and the anxiety and the depression, and that through that he's also healing, is absolutely one of the most touching things I could possibly think of. That's moving. That's passion. That's art. That's cinema. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Cinema moves us to tears. It causes us to dream bigger than ourselves. It allows us to view through a lens of someone else that struggles with something that maybe we don't struggle with, that then allows us to empathize a little bit more at the end of the day with that particular type of person. In a way, it makes us better humans. If it does that, it's cinema. It's film. So consider that my definition. And I'm not going to say definitive because, again, I don't think there is definitive in this. It's how one person perceives it versus another. But that is my definition. And essentially, as humans, we latch on to the things that we can identify with and aspire to be. And in many cases, many cases, there is no better representation of that than superheroes. So that is what I have to say about that. I do want to transition now into essentially my final rating of this movie. And I know that I've hit a little bit on theme, and I honestly I don't want to do a deep dive of this because I think you need to see it. I think you need to see it, and I don't want to ruin a single moment because I want you to appreciate it the same way I appreciated it. And by same way, I mean I don't want you to like take away the exact same things I did. I don't mean it that way. I just want you to have the same opportunity to feel all the things that I felt in watching it. IMDb gives this movie an 8.3 currently. Now that could change. Rotten Tomatoes gives this a 79%, and it is certified fresh. I don't know if that is the best Rotten Tomatoes score for a Deadpool film. I'm fairly certain it's not the best Rotten Tomatoes score for a Marvel film. But what I will say is that the audience score found on Rotten Tomatoes is a 97%, and quite surely that is up there in the top. Now to my score. I give, well, and before I jump in, let's talk about what I projected. When I did the Real Glimpse video and I showed the trailer, my projection was either a 9 or a 10. Yet again, I've gone 3 for 3. Clearly, I know myself. But my first watch score for this movie is a 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10. It stuck the landing. It had everything. And to me, possibly the best Deadpool film out of the three. It crushed it. It absolutely crushed it. I loved every moment of it. Every single second. From the action to the music, to the acting, to the writing, to the editing, to the directing. I could go on and on. Cinematography. It was all fantastic. It was all fantastic. If you're a Marvel fan, you're going to eat this up, and you're going to love every minute of it. If you're a Deadpool fan, even more so. So, that is my final rating. Final. I keep saying final. That is my first watch rating of Deadpool and Wolverine. I even kept the facial hair here just to celebrate Wolverine in my own way, I guess. So, that is my first watch review of Deadpool and Wolverine. I give it a 10 out of 10.